What is the purpose of interviews? There are various reasons why people use interviews. Mainly people interview others to find out information and expand their knowledge about something or someone. An interview gets different opinions about a subject or events that has happened, or even an explanation of why it happened. An interview also expresses and explains our perspective and views on focused points. Consume interviews. If you think about it, we consume interviews in many different ways. For example, print, YouTube, online and news, sports, editorial, news shows or broadcasts. Firstly, I'll be showing and discussing with you an interview where Boris Johnson awkwardly defended himself in an interview by the BBC's Eddie Mayer. This interview was supposed to be hard news, however it turned out to become more of an interview that was watched because of its entertainment purposes. Frequently, same question types are used. For example, open, selective and multiple questions. The questions that were asked by Eddie Mayer was clearly effective, as Boris came very agitated and defensive. For example, Eddie frequently asked direct questions like,
"Why did you lie to your party?"
and suggestive questions like,
The programme includes your reaction as you listen to a phone call in which your friend Darius Guppy asks you to supply the address of a journalist so that he can have him physically assaulted. The words beaten up and broken ribs are said to you. And you, having heard that, you tell your friend Darius Guppy you will supply the address. What does that say about you, Boris Johnson? Aren't you, in fact, making up quotes, lying to your party leader, wanting to be part of someone being physically assaulted? You're a nasty piece of work, aren't you?
The structure of the interview began with an introduction where Eddie introduces Boris. However, as the interview proceeds, it evolves to a developmental questioning where Boris Johnson becomes very agitated and uncomfortable as a result of Eddie's manipulative questioning. Eddie's communication skills are clearly on point. Evidently, he is sat forward with his legs crossed pointing at Boris, engaging in conversation. Eddie also shows active listening, as he has taken into consideration what Boris has said fully and coming up with replies and other questions to continue to defeat Boris in this interview. In 1979, Bob Marley was interviewed by Dylan Tiate in Aotearoa, New Zealand. The style of the interview included questions that were pretty light-hearted and investigative. For example, do you have to smoke to be a Rasta? And how long have you been a Rasta for? The structure of Dylan's interview is confidence building, and the majority of the questions asked by Dylan are key questions. Where Dylan is talking about Rastafarianism and reggae music, for example, did you always intend to be just a reggae musician, or had you played rock music and soul music before? Evidently, the majority of the questions are open and single. For example, how important are the dreadlocks? And when you smoke, it must create problems for you though, when you go to different parts of the world where perhaps it's outlawed, as it were. Finally, I'll be talking to you about Lil Wayne's deposition from the Quincy Jones lawsuit. The style of the interview was obviously meant for investigative purposes. However, I came across this hilarious interview online, as it has an outstanding number of views purely because of its entertainment values of the interview, as Lil Wayne is so stubborn and uncooperative. The interview is structured like the majority of other interviews, with an introduction, the questioning and the discussion, then the wind-up. The interview starts with easy developmental questions that Lil Wayne didn't have to think about.
Did you perform at the Virgin Mobile Music Fest in 2008 with Kanye West?
To slowly work his way to more revealing questions, as it were. As Lil Wayne is being questioned by an opposing lawyer, he chose to be less than uncooperative. For example, the interviewer asks,
Do you recall that police in New York City discovered a .40 caliber pistol on you, on your person?
And Lil Wayne answered,
I don't recall that neither.
As he did to 95% of all the other questions in which the interviewer asked. The majority of questions asked by the lawyer were suggestive and closed. For example, the interviewer asked questions like, how would you describe your image in the media, regarding all of the things you have done in the past? This is suggestive because the interviewer clearly knows the answer to the question, as Lil Wayne is one of the most well-known gangsters in the music industry. I respect the interviewer as he holds the side of the interview very well, accepting the fact that Lil Wayne will not give him full answers. It is obviously quite hard for the interviewer to show active listening towards Lil Wayne, as he is claiming he doesn't recall anything that has happened in his past life. In the interviewer, the lawyer is forced to wind up, as he knows that the interview wasn't beneficial for anyone if they had continued. Thank you for watching.